this is a group that's built from people from the LGBTQ community, Black community, people of color, and basically every socio-demographic is represented. We wanted to come together and change the monologue that's been going on in our city and to create a dialogue. We want to tackle hard conversations. We're going to have a little bit of humor, but we're going to share our heart through it. And we hope that this is representative and further engages dialogue in our own communities and around our kitchen table. My name's Kevin Parker. I'm a business owner here. I'm a father and have 3 little ones, and we're all going to introduce ourselves real quickly.
I'm Jennifer Thomas. I am a single mom. I have 4 daughters, and I work for a nonprofit organization.
Hi, I'm Phil Tyler. I am a husband, a father. I am the former NAACP president, and I'm an Air Force veteran.
Hi, I'm Erica Norris. I am a wife, a mother, and a local small business owner.
Hi, my name is Katara Johnson. I'm a former high school dropout. I am a former gang leader, and I am now currently a wife, a mother, a executive administrator at a local nonprofit, and I am an Army veteran. Cool.
So if y'all remember, we started to come together about 3 months ago. And one of the reasons we came together was a group in our community called Cancel Culture, which was surfacing a lot of questions. It was very aggressive. There was a lot of boycotts, and we knew that a lot of those were inaccurate, frankly. And so we wanted to come together and talk about what does it mean to not have a monologue where we're forcing ideas and thoughts, but to have a constructive civil dialogue to where we explore this. And so as we start with Cancel Culture, what were some of your thoughts and what did you observe as to what was going on?
I mean, for me, cancel culture is, to me, is a little counterproductive because if we're calling out equity and we're calling out what's right, there's no consistency in the cancel culture. So some people are allowed to educate yourself. I think one of the things I saw locally, a group said, educate yourself and, apologize. And educate yourself on what? For me, as a person of color, you can go into the K-12 system and you can get a lot of education, but a lot of Black history is not even there. So how can we expect individuals to be educated on something that is not even offered in the education system? So how are we talking about cancel culture when there's no learning? And if I cancel you, you're more likely to not like me even more because of what I've done to you. And the second part is if I cancel culture you, how is that creating learning? Because tomorrow you can start up a new business under a new name and get a new front person and pay them and still make the money. So are we really being effective? And is this a sustainable practice? And to me, the answer is no.
There's no doubt there's some systemic issues that produce racism, things of that. But that's where the boycotting is not what fosters that. Like Katara's point is that furthers the gap, the relational gap to where what does it mean? Because I've always felt like things change when there's a relationship and there's dialogue. Mm-hmm. And that's been so meaningful for me over the years. Yeah. And cancel culture ignores both of those. And so, as we come together, what does it mean for us to have a relationship and for us to have dialogue? And it's okay to disagree because that's when we have those meaningful conversations and opinions and ideas evolve.
You can't have a head change unless you have a heart change, and I believe that.
Yeah, well said.
I think it takes a second to get there, though, because for me, it was like, we were all quarantined. We were sitting in our houses, a lot of stuff was going on, mm-hmm. and then the business you thought you cared about and respected, you saw things that were so different from what you value. I definitely was like, okay, I could see, I don't want to spend my money there, right? Mm-hmm. But what happened was it was so broad, and then when it started to get, it was almost like they were picking people, they were looking for things that were 10 years old on mm-hmm. people. And that was when I started doing more research on cancel culture and why it's so dangerous. And that, for me, it was when it was in the present moment, it was happening right there, and that business owner just did something that I felt personally was mm-hmm. I don't want to spend my money there. I understood it. And then when I watched people trying to find their demons in the closet,
be systematic things about destroying.
And when a business owner had come out and said, I'm genuinely sorry, can you please help me become a better person around this?
That is the essence of cancel culture. It's lazy, first of all. It lacks nuance and context. And no one would have a conversation with anyone without nuance and context to a situation. Me as a Black man, I could never get down with cancel culture because I myself, you as a lesbian, have been canceled throughout culture, throughout history. So for me to engage in that is just ignorant. Secondly, as people, as communal people, we should be convincing, not vanquishing. Here's what I mean by that. If you were to say something that fell on me as discriminatory, I need to convince you that might have hurt my feelings, right? If I vanquish you right away, I make an enemy. And what we're trying to do in this world, in our community, is bring our community together.
Yes.
Cancel culture doesn't allow that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no tolerance for different ideas. And I mean, like, I feel like over the course of the last couple of years, you know, it's the narrative has really been like learning to collaborate and see other people's opinions. And cancel culture, there was no saying anybody else's opinion. You were right or you were wrong,
Correct.
and there was no middle ground. But like even some of our conversations where you're like, Jen, I totally disagree with you, and I'm like, okay, tell me more.
Let's talk.
Yeah, and so like even though you're like, I can't believe that you would think that. Like as we talked through it, like I was like, oh my gosh, I totally see this side that I never saw before. But if there had been something in you that was just like, that's it, we can't talk anymore because of how you voted, then like we would have thrown away a great friendship and an opportunity.
Absolutely.
And I just say tolerate. I'm on that side of I don't want anybody to tolerate me, you know. So and I don't want to tolerate anybody else. I want to get to know you. I want to build a relationship. I want to be able to hear you. I want to engage in dialogue because you may not ever change my mind, but I respect you as a person. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But if I tolerate you, I'm not getting to know you. That's like saying I'm going to get the top 10 things not to say to black people, you know, just so I can get by. But if I really want to get to know you and we have space in church, I call it space and grace, or space and humility to be able to make a mistake. We all make mistakes. That's part of being human.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, I mean, and if any person in the world has never made a mistake, then by all means, cancel culture away. But if you have made a mistake in your life and you genuinely learn from that mistake, that's where people make the mistake of discipline. Discipline means to teach, not to punish. Exactly. And so we are so much trying to get somebody to get in trouble for something they did because hurt people. But discipline means to teach, and there needs to be a teaching and learning that needs to happen. And we haven't even come together to say, what are the key learnings that need to happen in order for a person to say that, yes, I believe that this person has mastered this work. But it isn't a mastering of skill set, because that's why I don't like cultural competence. Cultural intelligence, cultural awareness. But when you say cultural competence, people think that they know everything there is to know about every culture. And there's no way to do that because each person is unique as their fingerprints.
Yes.
And we need to treat each person individually,
Context
not
and
as
nuance.
some collective thing.
Context and nuance, and that's what that cancel culture lacks. I mean, this group came together because we are a group of people that are about gaining information from our conversations, from our dialogue, not from what a monologue. So you post a meme on Facebook, it's a monologue, it's a one-way conversation, and it's supposed to describe you, how you feel, the symbolism that you feel. The problem with that is you don't have this dialogue that goes on. We are here because we want to gain information from one another and share it with our community. What we don't want to do is try to gain advantage. Oh, you're lesbian. I didn't know that. How can I use that? Oh, you're not a white woman? Oh, cisgendered white male. Okay. Army. I'm going to use that for my advantage. No, we're here to gain information from one another. Yeah. And cancel culture lacks that. Cancel culture looks to take advantage of what you had displayed as a representative of whom you are, which may not be factual.
So the opposite then is relationships is dialogue. And I was telling someone, it's so great to be with you all because all of you have impacted me pretty deeply through my time in the legislature. And Eric and I have had so many conversations going back so many years ago. Phil, I mean, we've all had these conversations, right? And I feel really lucky to have come in contact with you all because you all have generally become really meaningful friends who really have impacted me deeply. And I hope other people have. A Jen, a Phil, an Erica, a Kim, a Katara, a Garrett.
And wouldn't you feel like our friendship has genuinely like changed the way that you see the world? Because it has for me in a lot of ways. And I don't know about you guys, but on social media, I've gotten canceled for not being gay enough, for not being angry enough sometimes. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm a lesbian woman, I'm married, and I will fight for my rights. I will do whatever it takes. But that being said, I have to get to know other people and why they're voting the way that they're voting and what their mindset. I can't just assume that all of these people are idiots and how dare they be different than me. Or Kevin, it's like, I could have written you off from day one for old things. It's like, how can we not live in a world where you and I can have a conversation? He has literally been able to say, you know what, I've learned a lot from you. Here's how I used to think because I was raised this way. Now I've learned this is my reality now. I would like to do things differently in the future. It's like that is the literal thing that we need to do is help each other learn so we can actually make change.
Well, that's the other thing is I'm not the same person I was when I was 16,
Who
21,
is?
27. I'm 42 years old right now. I'm not making those same decisions. So how can you judge me off of something that happened a decade ago? I mean, we don't even
Or
have the
2
same,
years ago.
right? Even with some of you said, you know, as a gay female, I look at it. There's a lot of letters that have been added. It was LGBTQ. First it was gay, and then it was LGBTQ, and then it was like, you know, you can't use that, and then it was an IA, and then it was a 2S plus, a +2. I don't know which one. And so you have people afraid to talk today. Afraid, am I going to say the wrong thing? Am I going to get cancel culture because I don't know all the acronyms? Yeah. But for me, the truth is, I believe we need to build relationships with one another. Because if I build a relationship and I say something or I make a mistake, I have I put enough equity inside of our relationship in the bank that I can make a withdrawal. And you can help me understand if I said something, hey, that's not okay. You're like, oh, what did I do? Oh, I didn't mean that because you know my heart. When people came against you, Kevin, I first went to the defense. I'm like, hold up, wait a minute. Let's stop this right here. Let's talk about who this man really is. And I'm like, no, you don't have to go back and defend yourself for that. For those in this community who know what you have done financially, what you've done with your time, what you've become a foster parent, taking in children that other people would not even take in, you did that. And you didn't put it on Facebook, look at me, I'm a holy white man. No, you did not. And you just sat there like, what did I do? What can I do better? You apologized the first year when it was brought to your attention that these are some areas that need improvement. Mm-hmm. You apologize, right? Mm-hmm. Then the very next year, the same type of season, you get called out again. And then the same thing happened. The community comes to your aid. Then it again. So, okay, at what point is learning taking place? I mean, if I apologize if I hurt you, there's nothing I can do. I can't rewind time.
Mm-hmm. But what you're speaking to is cancel culture. But I want to step back because you had said, I'm a lesbian woman, and you said gay woman. And I asked a question, you know, what does Erica want to be called besides Erica?
I don't care. Okay, you know, like, I mean, me personally, but I know a lot of people do.
Okay.
You know, if we're getting into like the grouping conversation of everything, like it's tough because I hate getting put into a box. I mean, yeah, I'm confident, like I have a wife, I'm gay, it's gay is a general sense, right? I'm a lesbian because I'm a woman who likes a woman. What's really been hard for me is when, as I've gotten older, right, the LGBTQ plus, sometimes I consider myself a bad gay because I genuinely don't know. I mean, I really don't. And what's hard is because I don't know we're not the same. It's like we've gotten to a place where we're, like, I don't know the same struggles as a lesbian woman as a transgender woman does. And I don't know her, she doesn't know mine. We're living in totally different worlds, but yet anything that's not white and straight, we are now all on one flag, put into one group to just try to like box us in like you're different.
There's like a lot of research done out of this. And the guy who does it most is named Dr. Keegan, and he comes out of Harvard. And he talks about the difference of mental complexity versus IQ. They are not the same. Okay. And mental complexity, we can grow, we are always growing as we get older. And he gives 5 stages. Adolescence is the first couple of them. But then 3, 4, and 5 are really interesting. One of his stages is a socialized mind, meaning the information, and we see this on Facebook all the time, meaning the information, we take in information that reinforce what we believe, and we regurgitate what people want to hear, right? And a lot of people would say that's called a politician. And all joking aside, that's right to some degree, right? Now, beyond that, the one other level beyond in mental complexity is the idea of self-authoring mind, which means we read information and absorb information that takes what we like and what we believe, and then we regurgitate, we edit information and regurgitate only what reinforces what we believe. And you see that all over Facebook. I mean, how many people watch news sources from on the political party, one side and the other, and then try and find some sort of common sense, right? He would say 40% of the population is in the self-authoring mind. Only 2 to 3% have a mental complexity of self-transforming mind, which means I've worked hard to deepen my mental complexity. I read, I learn, I listen, but there's a part of me that's cognitively aware that no matter how much I've traveled, no matter how diverse my friends are, that I will never have all the information. And if we don't have all the information, that means someone else does. And so the 2 to 3% that reach the mental complexity of the self-transforming mind are the people that say, I'm interested in what you're saying because I think I don't have the whole puzzle, but I think Katara, you might have a couple pieces that help me develop my own mental complexity, right? That's what this group is. So we're talking only, and think about that.
I would completely
and
agree.
do that math. Do that math.
That's what this group is about.
40% are self-transforming. 2 to 3% are self-authoring. So where's everyone else? Right? We're talking 55% are in adolescent as well as socialized. So we're talking about trying to get to a mental complexity point where traditionally has not been common practice, according to Keegan and his research.
I 100% agree with you because I was there. I've been in that social media blinding world of only seeing defriending people that disagreed with me, right? Because they made me feel bad. Or back 4 years ago when Trump was elected, I did that. I was angry. I was scared. I was fear-monged. And I defriended people. And then it took me a long time to realize how many of my friends I would have to lose and how many people I genuinely care about. And it's only literally been the last 6 months that I have taken time. I mean, it's so easy. It really is easier, in my opinion, to sit behind a keyboard and say, if you vote this way, you're racist or you're homophobic. I mean, this is real, right? There's memes out there that say, if you do this, you're this, right?
For sure.
Boom, black and white. It is not black and white. Nope, it's not. And it's a lot harder, let me tell you, because I've been doing it, to take those trolling conversations offline, invite that person to dinner at your house, and listen to people about why. Because let me tell you, I got into it hard with a friend who was struggling with the decision to vote, who he's gonna vote for. Sure. In my mind, as a lesbian woman, to me it's black and white, right? It's like, how could you not? How could you even consider? I care about you, Aaron. I was painfully hurt when I figured out that this guy, and he came over, and first we got into it online with a friend of mine. Wow. And it was painful, but we both cared about each other enough to not cancel. We said some harsh things. We talked at a tone of voice that was hard to read.
No context or nuance.
None. And we came back and we said, listen, I love you. I really want to believe that you, this is the first time I just said, I know I trust my gut on who I am friends with to know that you are not the person I think you might be from voting this way. He came over, and you know what? My biggest fear of Trump is losing my son, right? If he doesn't support LGBTQ, if he votes Supreme Court, that's my biggest fear, right? Everybody's fear is their family, right? I don't want to lose my son. He came over and he explained to me why, if Biden's elected, he fears that he won't be able to adopt his nephew. He's right now he's fostering, or he's trying to adopt his nephew, and with the economy being shut down, it was he walked me through why his biggest fear is not being able to adopt his nephew. And in that moment, I realized this person that I put into this racist, how could you be this way? You're my friend. You can't love me if you vote for him box. And his biggest fear is my biggest fear.
Did you label him racist?
I didn't, but in my head I thought, that in that our culture we're living in right now online is if you vote for Trump, you're racist, homophobic,
And you viewed it as a vote against you.
I went on Facebook 6 months ago and wrote, if you vote for Trump, you must not be my friend, or you can't love me, because I was so bombarded in my own world, and I hope people can get off social media. And this is coming from a social media marketing owner. I own a marketing business. Social media does a lot of good things. It is an incredible tool. But what it is doing to people, you're living in your own box.
But Erica, where have you got the vision to do this, though? Because I know you get crap for doing this. I mean, where have you got the vision to engage people who view differently than you? And because you have very good conversations.
I wrote that Facebook post. I have very good conversations with the people that I've chosen to.
But you've been doing this for 10 years. Where did this vision come from?
I don't know.
I think it's that you value people, you see them, and you respect them. Like bringing it back to what Katara said earlier, is it's about respect, and you care enough to keep relationships and foster relationships and not discard them and just
Wow.
But it's like it also is, bringing it back to what you were talking about, Kevin, with perspective and having the transformational mind that will say, I don't have all the information, and I'm willing to admit that and see what the rest of the information is. But in one of our first conversations, I used an example of a water bottle and how, like you'll see one side of it and I'll see one side of it, and we could argue about what you see and what I see because we're looking at the same thing but from two different perspectives.
Yep.
And what I love and respect and value about you is that you are willing to say, let's shift this water bottle. Let's shift it so that I can see what you're seeing and you can see what I'm seeing.
Would you agree, given that statement and your discussion with your friend, that we're all just individual voters? We don't want these social institutions to group us into a voting block. Black folks have been treated that way for a long time.
And
Now
this is
it's the
new language, though,
LGBT.
Phil. This is new language. What you're talking about, I think, is brand new language.
But what I'm saying is, we're all individual voters, and we shouldn't be treated through these social institutions like voting blocks. I mean, black women have been called that for decades.
Yeah.
They are a voting block. Now the LGBTQ are the largest voting block. Now the Hispanics are the voting block. The problem with grouping, and this goes back to the LGBTQI+, is that it lacks or it erases the individual in that grouping. And so right now, Qatar and I are suffering through what we call BIPOC. Right? And most people don't even understand that term because we're all not woke enough. And woke needs to be put to sleep, first of all. But let's go back to BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, People of Color. It's just linguistically lazy because although Native American and Black folks have had some horrible times through our history as a nation, it's not the same. And that's not to mean there's anything lesser than mine, is that when you group us together, it erases the individual traumas and difficulties we explain. Just say Black man, Black woman, lesbian woman, and straight white male.
That person wants to be identified.
Exactly,
I mean,
but stop grouping me. Stop grouping me. It's just it is really just lazy. We're better than that as people.
And that's what's the problem with our political party in a whole, is that we just assume, oh, Erica's gay, so she's a Democrat, so we need to hit her up with you don't know. I'm a small business owner. I might run this way. And,
Sure.
I believe in this. They're so broken. This left and right. We are all, in my opinion, and I know it gets bad, we are somewhere in the middle. There is.
Well,
and for me, as a woman who happens to be Black, I find myself in Spokane specifically. At first, I was like, I had to fight for my freedom, literally. Like, people assume that I'm supposed to do this. I'm not voting a particular way because I have to do research. And I have to really understand how these policies affect me. And I would get these group emails, like if you, I don't know how I got on the listserv, but they would give me all these things. Well, Trump is trying to do this, and these people are trying to do that. And I'm looking at this email, and I have to start looking at, wait a minute, okay, let me look at this bill. What are they referencing? And you send an email, people are not responding back to you because no, you were just supposed to read the red lettering, and you're supposed to shut down and say, go to social media.
Why? Because you're a Black woman. You're a block of people.
Then to see the this guy, the former vice president, tell me that I'm not Black if I don't vote for him. Really? Who made you the DNA measuring stick of who's Black and who's not? Because trust me, I've been Black all my life.
Hey, we're sitting on territorial lands of the Spokane Indian tribe who've had blood quantum, designations for years.
But this group think that happens.
Socialized mind.
Socialized mind, however you want to put it. Me being an individual, we have to learn to fight for our freedoms and not be afraid of people pushing us to the side. Or I even had media contact me and say, your nonpartisan views are shaking up the community of color. I was like, who did you talk to? Because not one person speaks on behalf of the entire race of people. So who are you speaking to? I would like to know that person. I don't speak on behalf of all Black people. I can only speak on behalf of Katara. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yep, I love
that.
that.
What makes sense is, how do they get to determine who you are unless you identify yourself? Yes, I look at you. You're a beautiful Black woman, but
Thank you very much.
But don't come and assume. I look at Jennifer, a beautiful white woman. I don't know if she's right or not. I really don't know.
What do you see with me? What do you see with me?
Handsome.
Racially ambiguous.
Stop. I was like, cut the tail. But I remember one of the comments that just so.
Just cut her off. She was about to say.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's good. It's good.
Well, we're switching into.
You said you're a white woman,
topics.
and I'm looking because I'm thinking, and I'm like, okay, she's a little racially ambiguous. I can't off the top pick out what she is. She could.
Are
she
you
could pull
white?
off. Are you a white woman?
And honestly, my question is, does it matter? Because Because often I'm asked that question, like, what are you? And I'm like, I'm an American.
Ah, wow.
I know, but where are you from?
Where are you
America?
really from?
Where are you? Tacoma.
Well, originally,
Yeah, but my dad's Japanese,
Okay.
and so I'm half Japanese, and my dad was in the Air Force, career Air
All
Force.
right,
So
aim high.
we lived all over the country. I was born in Texas, and we lived in Germany for 7 years before I moved to Spokane. And when we moved to Spokane, I remember walking into junior high and being like, where's everyone else? Like, where are all the other black kids and, like
I know
the
that feeling.
Hispanics? And I would sit in classrooms and be, like maybe one of 2 or 3 minorities. And there are still times here in Spokane that I walk into meetings and I will be aware, like, I'm probably the most minority person in this room in that specific meeting, and thinking then, like, people don't even know, and it's easy. It's
They
in
don't know
Spokane.
that you're half Japanese? I didn't
No,
know
in
that.
Spokane, it's easier for me to play the white girl than
pass.
to be half Japanese.
We
Why?
call
What
that
do you mean?
passing.
What do you mean easier? Tell me what that means.
Yeah,
Speak
explain that to us.
I don't. So, and this is just my own,
Of course.
like, how I feel. As soon as I am half Japanese, there's something different about me. And so sometimes it's different good. Sometimes people will want to get to know me just because I'm different, which feels as gross and slimy as someone
Performative.
not wanting to get to know me
yeah.
because I'm different. And I just want to be known for who I am,
Yeah.
which I'm sure, like, all of us here can identify with that.
Wow.
And so being half Japanese suddenly puts me in a box and identifies me in a way where you have some sort of preset of what that should mean. Like,
Sure.
I should be smarter, or I must have advantages that
the
you don't have,
mathematics.
or I'm not a white girl, so
Right,
I'm
right.
not,
Did
so
you
you don't want
dual
to.
citizenship at some point?
No, my
Okay.
dad's parents immigrated, but
Okay,
he was
okay.
born in Colorado.
Okay.
And but there's a whole part of, and my dad's parents were really poor, and his mom died when he was little. So culture wasn't really passed on to him.
Okay.
But as I have learned about my culture, like the state fairground in Puyallup
Yeah.
was an internment camp
Sure
for
was.
Japanese people. And every year people gather at the Puyallup fairgrounds and go through and celebrate the fair and have fun, not
Bainbridge
knowing.
Island was a horrible internment camp.
Not knowing
Yeah.
that for 10 years almost,
Yeah.
people were
Americans.
housed there. Americans.
Americans
Yes.
were interned. Yes.
Yep. Who were born in the
Yes.
States,
Yes.
but simply because of the color of their skin, and that was in the 40s.
That was,
Right.
That was
Wow.
Franklin Roosevelt. I remember
Yeah.
that.
That makes
From
me
Pearl
think
Harbor.
about, and I know I don't, not to just completely shift topics, but I think about that transracial buzz that went around, and I was like, no, that's not a thing. Just like trans species is not a thing. And the reason why is because if everybody can't do it, that's not an equitable practice. And it would mean we would have to redefine what black is as well. So what does it mean to be black? What part of the history do you cut off and say this is not attached to you? And if I put on light color makeup and I went in to say that today I identify as white, that's not going to happen. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So,
But you've been defending your blackness forever in Spokane, which is ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? And we and I'm gonna go back to Jennifer real quick, but real quick on that topic, Qatar and myself get to have to defend our blackness, and both our parents are black. You don't get to question my blackness when both my parents are black, and we getting questioned by folks who don't have 2 black parents.
Can
That
you
don't
explain-
make no sense.
Yeah.
Can you explain all this, because that's foreign, I think, for a lot of us.
I want to go back to Jennifer. I want to
yeah,
go back to
yeah.
Jennifer first. So my question to Jennifer is: do you ever get in a space where you celebrate your culture outwardly, in a space where you're the only color in the room? Because I know how it feels when I walk in the room and Qatar walk in the room. We have what we say is the 7th sense. We look around, see somebody of color, and then we
Right.
jump off. You got me? Okay. That's how we act when we go into a room.
Really?
I don't know if you do that same thing when you're in your spaces.
I typically feel lonely.
Okay.
And maybe it's because I don't, because I can hide it. Because
Okay.
I mean, and I remember, especially in my 20s, making deliberate choices. Like, if I wear this, I'm going to look more Asian. So I'm not going to buy this. I'm not going to wear my makeup like this. I'm not going to even wearing my hair straight, because it's like naturally it is straight. But I have friends who are like, you should put some curl in it. I'm like, this is Japanese hair. Japanese hair
like
does
that?
not like to curl like that. I mean, it's just, but it is like, I don't.
On your
it's
application, what do you
funky.
put? Can I ask?
I don't answer it.
Oh, you don't?
I don't answer
Oh,
it.
damn.
She's one person in a box, which I can relate to on every level, because what's crazy is everything you're talking about, I do, because when I came out, I was so girly. A lot of you knew me, so girly, long hair. I was on the dance team. I was very feminine. Well, at first, I think I spent my early 20s and mid 20s trying to show my gayness, almost trying to say, okay, I'm out. I like women. I want women to know I like women, right? And so I got more and more gay. I got more masculine. And then recently I took a really, really far cut where I cut my hair off and I changed my clothes, because when I was really girly and I was gay, I honestly felt bad for people who got discriminated against, because I wasn't, because I was like socially
you
acceptable.
could pass like she could.
I could pass. It's like I was really girly, so guys felt comfortable hitting on me. Girls who knew, it was more of like you wore one little thing, right? So they knew, like a I Heart Boobies bracelet, or all the lesbians that are watching this are dying right now. But you did something so that exactly, because you're not a lesbian.
That's why we're doing this.
I thought it was breast cancer.
Yeah, well, it was, but we took it over. But I mean, it's like I fought so hard to like get to that place where I want people to know I was gay. But then something really drastic happened when I cut my hair. I cut my hair like 2 years ago. It was a decision I'd always wanted to, and I am literally wearing the same clothes I would have worn with long hair. But this outfit with long hair, for some reason, is a totally different look.
Interesting.
The day I cut my hair, I immediately became a dyke. I'll say that word. I don't know if it's.
Is that a
I feel like I'm
negative term?
allowed to say that. Yeah.
'Cause that's
you
what
know,
I
if you came
hear it
into a
as,
room
yeah.
and said it to me, I'd be
Yeah.
like, no. But if you're talking, it's not a good word, but it makes me feel sad. It makes me feel. I always, my dad growing up, it was like, when I came out, growing up, I mean, I've been out for a long time. So when I came out, it was really bad, right? But then he got more comfortable with it, but it was whatever you do, just don't cut your hair, don't become one of those lesbians. Don't be that gay. And my wife dealt with it. Don't wear basketball shorts. I mean, I think most lesbians have dealt with it from their parents in some way. And when I cut my hair, I had I really truly felt like, imagine if you like got rid of your white half.
Then you couldn't hide anymore.
I couldn't hide it. It was like, oh my gosh.
But did you want to hide it?
Yes. I feel, the women that can wear rock short hair and boys' clothes and are confident, have enough confidence to do that, I applaud them, because I feel small. I feel different. I feel like everyone treats me differently.
Do you know what's interesting?
What?
Is I was 13 when we moved to Spokane, but I never felt different before we moved to Spokane. I never felt like the minority. And I was Japanese. Like when we lived in Germany on Spangdahlem Air Force Base, like I was Jennifer Moroya, I was the Japanese girl. And it wasn't a big deal.
But you were in the military though.
Military
attendant, which is a lot of culture around.
Yep, lots and lots and lots of culture. But as soon as we came to Spokane, it shifted.
I think
so. I know what it feels like to be able to be Jennifer Moroya.
If we go to like San Francisco, I rock it, right? It's like, oh yeah, it's like, oh, you look gayer than I do. You look gayer. It's like nice. It's like, okay, I'm not the oddball out, but I walk into a business meeting as a business owner or whatever, and it's like, oh, all of these blonde women are my age, and they all think I look really like.
What do you say
gay.
to a straight white woman who has, when Sharon Stone cut her hair, it didn't make her a dyke, right?
No, but she still wore you can have short hair if you wear dresses still, and still. And I mean, when I say you can, I don't say those are like the rules. I'm saying that's what my mind and years of society and culture have told me. Like, it's not okay because you're wearing a guy shirt and you have short hair.
It's interesting. When I was a little girl, I went to an all-black school. And all of my teachers were black, with the exception of maybe 2 in the entire school, 2 or 3 in the entire school. So I grew up with I'm black and I'm proud, and I came from Chicago, so Black Panthers, so it's like in that area I grew up loving being black. And when I came to Spokane, it was the first time I saw black people explain away their blackness.
That's what
Or
Jennifer was
I would
talking
meet
about.
somebody and say, "Oh no, I'm not black. I'm Hawaiian. I'm only this color because," and they would go into a full dialogue as to why
That's
they
what
were not
Kevin's
black.
asking. That's what you're
And
talking
I
about.
was like, "Oh my
Yeah.
God!" I was insulted that these black people were not proud
To make
be,
other people comfortable.
to be black. And so I've been the one. I mean, I've always been fighting for the we belong here,
Yeah.
and knowing my history and sharing that history and sharing the stories and perspectives. But I've always been the one who fights for that voice
Yeah.
to be in there, or ask in a meeting who's missing. Like, this whole group is creating decisions for this population, and this population. Where are those voices at this table?
Yep.
And I tell people, like,
Talking about Congress?
Every capital and everything. It's so
Who's
good.
missing? Who's missing? I mean,
It's so
at state levels, and sometimes being a part of groups that consider themselves woke.
Yeah.
That sometimes I feel like they need to take a nap, because when you think about
That's what Kevin's
some
asking.
words are not translatable.
Yeah.
Intersectionality, and I won't even go into the whole woke dictionary that I have. That was sent to me by a group of collective individuals from the other side of the state and this side of the state. And I talked, they said diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I had a friend of mine who does this work as well on the other side of the state. He said, well, Katara, I'm Mexican. And we don't speak that dialect of Spanish, and inclusion does not have a translatable, it's not a translatable word. I said, wait.
That's
There's
good.
no way that all these individuals are at this table. We're talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And one of the largest U.S. ethnic minorities don't have a translatable word for inclusion.
Yeah.
How is that even possible? So some of us are so woke, we just woke ourselves out of even meeting with our fellow person that's next to us to see, hey, does this work?
Yeah.
Does this work? Can you translate this?
Yep.
And if most of our documents that we send out emails and all of this to people, I work in a service industry, health and human services, and we send out this email and we have acronyms and things in it. That's not even the average Washingtonian that they have an advanced degree. So if it's not on the 7th grade level, or if a person, I have to, or I've had people fight with me about language. Katara, we need an equal opportunity in an equal amount of time. Why do these people get extra time? They're in America. And I'm like, what? I said, okay, how about this? I have to read this question in my native language. Then I have to read it in English, then translate it into my native language. And then I have to come up with an answer in my native language. And then I have to translate that to English, and then I have to write that down. Does that take the same amount of time that it does for a person who English is their first language? No.
Yeah.
So that you're talking about equal, and a friend of mine was like, wow, I never even thought about it that way.
Yeah.
Katie." But when we think about, things about people who are missing at the table, or people focus so much on diversity,
Yep.
so much diversity that they don't focus on
become
inclusion and equity. I tell people, stop doing the diversity thing. Because you're just putting colors and people in social
Numbers.
identity boxes, but you're not working hard on how to get to know this person. How are their voices valued and added to the table? And how we're making sure that everyone within your organization is moving through what ease. Does that make
Yep,
sense?
absolutely.
Focus on equity and inclusion. Diversity is already there. Diversity in thought, diversity in the way that you view and speak. And the higher diversity that you increase diversity, the increased conflict. So an organization that's increasing diversity has to really focus on intercultural and communication strategies, if that makes sense. I know I'm getting myself.
I'm gonna use that diversity to go back and answer Kevin's question,
Yeah.
because we talked about going back to Jennifer and
Yep.
Erica's thing, that we've had to answer the question in our own community about our own blackness. To answer your question about that, Kevin, within the black community, there are some that believe you have to act a certain way in order to define your blackness, right? W.E.B. Du Bois years ago coined this term double consciousness, meaning there was what you represented inside the house, inside the four walls of your house, and then what you were expected to look and act like that society put upon you, right? And it's often things we have to fight all the time, right? Particularly Katara and myself, right? I don't have to subscribe to a political ideology to be black. I don't have to vote for a certain person to be black. I don't have to speak a certain way to be black. I was raised by my parents that we were the original bilingual people, not from my roots back in Ghana, but we had to come here and speak the Queen's English. And then when we got around one another, we became a little ratchet, we would call it, right? Where we could say axe versus ask, or, fitting to instead of fixing to. And so that's how we communicated. And we took that power into our own language. But if we don't display that outwardly for the white gaze to some of our black friends, we ain't black enough.
Or I've had white people tell me, how could I make freedom choices on who I was friends with because they're on the opposite ends of a party? How could you do this? And I'm looking at you, how would you? And I said, how is this white woman going to tell me how to be black? This is like nerve and audacity. I have people who send me messages on LinkedIn. I could actually read you one of them. First thing in the morning, I remember taking a class from you and it was great. And then I've watched you move to the leadership platform in the community. And it blows my mind how you could choose to be friends with a Republican. And I was just like, no. Like, who are you talking to? It's just like, as a free black woman, I can vote for whoever I choose to. I don't have to fit a box or be a Democrat because I'm black. That doesn't define blackness.
But the lesson here, right? The lesson here is that our tendency is to put everyone in the box because it's easy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. And so what you would want me to
the
take
black
by
circuit when they're running for campaign. And I will say this about you. You used to hold office. I have never witnessed you do a black circuit in Spokane. I never saw you. Now, almost every other candidate has. They'll go to each black church and talk at each one of the church. You never did that, yet you were loved by all people in the community. And I looked at that. You never did that.
We're here because not all of them.
Yeah, well, not all. No, that happened over time. No. Let's get this right.
Yeah.
There are people who just came on the scene. You and I did the Black Lives Matter, Black and Blue, because we fought for Black and Blue on the walk. And then we've done so many of these things. We took a break this recent when it was like, you know what, we see things differently. Young people came out on the scene, and people who just were recently incarcerated came out and wanted to do some new stuff. They were new to the block, so they didn't know what he had done because they haven't been here. So they're only going off of social media and the things they saw. And I'm over here laughing. You're questioning me. You just got on the block. You should be out there. We put in the work on the block. They don't understand that, and they're not doing enough deeper research to see what this man has done and how he's built up the rapport in the community.
Mama
These
used
are
to
new
tell
folks.
me,
New folks.
some people you gotta leave them where you find them. That's what she said.
I think to sum up everything we've talked about in the last 30 minutes, I would say, and especially this last topic, it's about the community, having a little empathy for others and understanding that your point of view and that water bottle that you're looking at isn't always the side of the water bottle, that you should, turn the bottle. That's something that I personally have done. Even just taking the time and feeling comfortable enough to surround myself with people that diversity, and we're a little bit different in different ways, but at the end of the day, we can have a tough conversation, and we can have conversations out of respect and talk and listen, not to be heard. Listen to learn. You know what I mean?
Information, not advantage.
Speak out of love and go into that conversation trusting in your gut and heart that the person sitting across from you is just as scared, has just as many of their own values. At the end of the day, they want to take care of their family. We all, at the end of the day.
And when either party wins, the relationship loses. And if the relationship is more important, that's what we invest in.
If we could just go back to the relationship, I think that's going to be a game-changing thing for us. And I'm excited to have more of these conversations with you guys. What we did here tonight was awesome.
It was cool. It's interesting because the symbol for the United States is the eagle, right? But the eagle has two wings, the right and the left. And the eagle cannot fly with one wing. And so all viewpoints are very important.
I love that. I have literally not heard anything like that in the last
4
years, 5 years. Yeah. Well, I feel inspired.
Got two talents too. You scratch each other.
We all left with one thing. What would it be? If you close out with anything today, what would it be?
I love that.
Ladies first.
I would just say what I just said. When either party, if either person wins, the relationship loses.
Okay.
And it's important to invest in a relationship. And when the relationship matters, you will do whatever it takes. You will meet with somebody. I've done it myself. Hey, let's talk. Let's have coffee. I made a phone call, make 3D into the 2D text and post into a 3D conversation or face-to-face.
For mine, don't spend a single second arguing behind the keyboard. I am telling you, it is a waste of time. There is no love in that keyboard. Pick up the phone.
I've been waiting on that meme all day to change my mind.
Literally.
That's so
Pick
good.
up the phone. And if you're the person starting, this is my biggest opinion, like, if you're the person starting the argument or starting the conversation online and the other person tries to give you a call or ask you to go to coffee and you're not willing, then ask yourself why you started that conversation to begin with, because it's not to make change. It's not to grow. It's not to learn from each other. It's to bully. It's to hate, in my opinion. If you're not willing to have that conversation in person, why are you having it at all?
Deep. That's good.
So.
That's really good.
I think it's just a deeper sense of respect and community. And I really loved, what was the author's name? Keegan.
Dr. Keegan.
The transformational thinking. I mean, like, it's something that I've practiced, but without putting a name to it. But it is something that I'll be more intentional about. Really, every conversation. And allowing that grace for if someone else isn't at that same place to have a transformational conversation, that they don't have to be, I can be. And that can change the dynamics just by me being willing to have that
Having grace,
That's good.
I would say, again, it's the same thing that started us on this path. I think convince, don't vanquish, right?
That's good.
You may not know you've said something that hurt someone. You may not know you shared a meme that could be hurtful to someone. But convince them about how it fell on you. Don't vanquish them. I mean, we're here to make friends and make community, not to make enemies. So that's what I'm leaving with.
Yeah. I love that.
I think I hope people have friends like I do and you all.
Okay. Get me in the good spot.
No, I
that's
mean,
real, though.
I truly feel like these friendships have already done so much in just the last few years, and I really hope people start surrounding themselves with people that are different than them, because that is the only way they're going to get out of their box.